don't have. When you are talking about integrity, you are really talking about the real person, who that person is.
When you talk of integrity, you talk of honesty. To be honest. And to be honest means to be trustworthy, to be truthful. And politics is science and art of government.
Politics is about the people.
Yes.
And if you talk about it in a deeper sense, it has to do with how people take decisions on how to lead themselves.
Good day, Nigeria, Africa, Europe, and wherever you are watching us. Over the weekend, the governorship and state houses of assembly elections of 29 states out of the 36 states in Nigeria was conducted, and collation and announcement of results has been on since Sunday. Winners have emerged from various states, some sitting governors returning while some new ones are elected. Same goes to the state houses of assembly members. There were reports of election violence, ballot snatching, underage voting, and vote buying during this election, especially in Kano, Kaduna, Adamawa Plateau, Sokoto, Akwa Ibom Delta, Oyo, Ondo, Rivers, Ebonyi, Imo, Benue, Kogi, and Bayelsa as some listed states which experienced these incidents. These and many more we shall be discussing on Christians in politics today. You are welcome to the program, and I am Korede Akitunde. And with me in the studio to review the governorship and state houses of assembly election and its implication are Dr. Benson Ulugbo, the Executive Director, Clean Foundation.
Thank you, Korede.
Thank you for coming, sir.
Thank you.
And I also have Venerable J.O. Hunoya, the Director for Civic and Political Affairs, Church of Nigeria, and the National Director, CONAC. That's the Church of Nigeria Election Monitoring Group.
Observation Group.
Observation Group.
Thank you.
Thank you for coming, sir.
Thanks for having me.
Yes, we were here same time last week,
yes,
discussing about the outcome of the presidential election. And this week, we are going to be looking at the state's assembly. Dr. Benson, you were not around last week, and so let me start with you. What has been your experience on field? I've seen some of your reports on TV. What has been your...
Okay, the governorship and state houses of assembly election, one key thing is that it witnessed low turnout in Abuja, in several places across the country. A lot of people didn't come out to vote. And it also witnessed more irregularities and violence if you compare it with the presidential and national assembly elections. Some people we asked, why are you not coming to vote? They say their votes didn't count in the first one. Some people also say that they are afraid of coming up, because you know in Nigeria politics is local. So everybody knew that the governorship and state houses of assembly will be more competitive than that of the presidency. You will also notice what is happening in some of the states. In some of the states that APC won in the presidential, is now other people, not the APC, that is now winning the governorship. So in Nigeria, local elections are very competitive. And we also noticed an increase in military involvement in these elections, which is also very difficult. And probably as we go on the program, we'll explain more. But for me, generally, there were also places it was quite peaceful. Things worked well. Some of the things we noted was that INEC officials, interestingly, came in most of the polling stations early with security agencies, but voters were nowhere to be found, which more or less was an anchored climax, because during the presidential election, more Nigerians, a lot of people came very early. INEC officials were not there, the materials were not there, and it caused confusion because they came late, and that actually caused the problems. I still believe that the postponement of the election contributed to the apathy that was experienced during the governorship election, because people had spent a lot of money and they had to wait for another week, and after that week, INEC still couldn't get around its logistics. But we want to commend them. The card readers in several of the places we monitored worked better than it did in the presidential election, but there were places where it failed. One thing we also noticed was that there were a lot of places where ballot boxes were snatched. Unfortunately, in some places actually being aided by security agencies. It was only in one place we had that somebody was shot dead by the army for snatching ballot boxes, which is also regrettable, actually. But the elections have come and gone. People are still waiting for the results. But like everybody has said, and also one of the key things we said in our last report is that there is need for an audit of the elections generally. What worked, what didn't work, and how do we go forward? I think there's also need for security agencies to actually tell us what they are doing with those individuals who have been arrested. Police told us they've arrested 323 electoral offenders in the presidential election. We are still waiting to hear how many people they arrested during the governorship election. There is need to ensure that those individuals are held accountable. And then in terms of security agencies, we saw military involvement brazenly in politics, especially in Rivers State and in other states. So the question is, the police high command has set up an inquiry. We need to know the report of that inquiry. And security agencies who are actually deployed for election duty, with their code of conduct, rules of engagement, going against the provisions of the law that set them up and the Constitution, should actually be held accountable.
Okay, thank you very much. Very good. Let me ask you, what was your experience, and possibly from your group across the country on this governorship election?
Well, the experiences are quite similar with what Dr. Ben have just narrated. Maybe if I start from the preparedness of INEC, you could see that it was better than that of the presidential election. The report we gathered almost all over the country says that they were on duty post in good time. Then security men in most places were on ground also. So to that extent, there was improvement over the presidential election. Then when it comes to the issue of voter apathy, in fact, it was nothing to write home about. Well, that of FCT is understandable because there's no governor to vote for here and all that. So many people were not interested in the local government election. That has always been the pattern, so to say. But it was worse, and all over the country, it was the same thing almost all through, this issue of voter apathy. And like as he said, I share that idea completely, because from the interview we had with people, many of them said they did not come out to vote because they feel that their vote didn't count in the last election, the presidential election that was done. And maybe because of want of time, and maybe let the thought not escape me completely. I want to make a comment on the issue of vote not counting. I want to be
yes, because I actually want to ask you if you buy that idea
yes,
that vote is not counting.
I don't buy that idea wholesale, except if you don't know what INEC is doing. On Saturday, I had the opportunity again when I went to visit the INEC National Election Situation Room. I interacted with Amina Zakari. I interacted with Barrister Festus, who is the current commissioner in charge of publicity. I interacted with this lady, the national commissioner in charge of legal matters, Lady May. Okay. Yeah. Yeah. So, what was I talking with them? What I even saw on ground in INEC situation room tells much about what INEC is doing to make people's vote count. You can't believe it that in INEC situation room, they are seeing virtually what is happening in the whole country at the same time, which was not there in the past.
for instance, there's a department that is watching out for any incidents, whether card reader failure, whatsoever is happening at police, whether or their staff not being present in a particular. Once you send, there's a board where they are monitoring their Twitter, their WhatsApp, their Facebook, reporting at the same time. Officials are there watching this thing 24 hours, and behind them is a lane of directors, including representative of all security agencies, where any issue you report, for instance, let's take a hypothetical example. If you send ordinary text message or WhatsApp message in Badagry at a polling booth to say, we are here now, it is 9 a.m. We have not yet seen INEC official or so materials are not available. Right away, that message is passed to a director, and that director gets back immediately to the INEC commissioner in the state to respond to make sure that problem is solved immediately. So if it's a security issue, it is passed to the directors, they pass it across to the security personnel representing the army or the police or whoever, and the message is relayed back to the appropriate quarter in the state for quick response. That is one department in the situation room. We move to another section of the situation room where they are monitoring, what's it called, the card readers. What the card readers is counting at the different police units all over the country is running on the board. Real time, running on the board. Once they finish election in any police booth and you communicate with INEC, it will record that so card reader have finished work, and this is the number, this is what it has gathered, everything is there. So they have different departments, and the national commissioners are on another line somewhere where whatsoever problem that is beyond the directors is relayed to them immediately for immediate action. If you go to the INEC election situation room, you see seriousness. You see people ready to work. You see people ready to make the vote count. And this thing didn't start now with Mahmoud Yakubu. I keep telling people, it started during Goodluck Jonathan's administration, when he gave free hand to Professor Jega to develop INEC and to make election count. And they really did that. That was why that election of 2015 went the way it went, that an incumbent president could easily be voted out. Yes. And since then, there have been improvement upon improvement, like this what they call configuration of card reader to make sure that people are not able to use it outside the election day. You cannot even use it before 8 a.m. on election day. Once it is 6 p.m., the card reader demobilizes itself automatically so that no one can falsify the figure. I think where the problem lies when you are talking about vote not counting or whatever, it's not even the INEC. Okay. Now, the headquarters per se. That is not to say that in a nation as big as Nigeria, where INEC is deploying how many thousands of staff all over the country, there will be no people that will be compromised along the line. If one INEC commissioner is compromised, that does not mean the whole INEC is compromised. Yeah. If one collation officer, maybe in Rivers or in Lagos, allow himself to be compromised by taking money and trying to do something with whoever, that does not mean the whole system, the whole process is compromised. So I want Nigeria to begin to reorientate their mind, because if we don't reorientate our mind and believe that INEC is making frantic effort to make vote counts, I tell you, the voter apathy in the next election in future will be so amazing that election will not be worth it in Nigeria. Then by the time you look at it, really what happened in this, let's come to this governorship election specifically. Was it INEC that were the military people that were disrupting the process in Rivers? Is it INEC that are the talks that made the election to be declared inconclusive? INEC only maintained her stand, her constitutional stand, by cancelling some result declaring some elections inconclusive because they feel the way Nigerians feel that something is going wrong and there's need to stop the process in order to adjust. While we don't want to exonerate INEC to say it's not a perfect institution, we should also acknowledge the fact that INEC is making frantic effort. But the government in power should be held accountable for some of these things. And secondly, yes, Nigerians should be held responsible for some of the things that happen. Because we take this thing as a do-or-die affair.
Nigerians or the politicians?
Oh, okay. Politicians.
Because I think
that was a good correction.
Yes.
Politicians who are very desperate.
I think because that's what I wanted us to feature that. I don't think we need to blame the voters.
Yeah, because the voter wanted to vote.
Everybody wants to
so
vote.
It's
and we saw that at the presidential election. But the question is, are they not the politicians who are hiding ballot snatching and all sort of this irregularities?
Now, you came back to the same point I was making.
Yes.
Is it INEC that snatched INEC ballot box?
Yes.
It is the politicians that are aiding. It is the politicians that are arming these people. It's a no fact that even when we are talking about security interference now, there's confusion on the air, in the air. The military have responded now, though they cannot fully exonerate themselves. But they are trying to defend themselves now by saying that many politicians sold uniform to impersonate the military and all that. And actually, it was in the news before the election time that at several points, people were arrested with fake military uniform, truckload of fake military uniform, police uniform and other. But that, what I'm trying to say, those things were done by politicians. But the military cannot fully also exonerate herself. And I put most of the blame on the desktop of the party in power. If you look at the states where this violence was orchestrated, a place like Lagos, a place like Rivers, Akwa Ibom, some of the states like Kogi, these were already flashpoints that we identified before even the election day. You can see visibly that the party in power wanted to take over power in Akwa Ibom at all costs. The party in power wanted to take power over in Rivers at all costs. And the governors of these very different states have been crying out even before the election that this is what is happening. They are already being intimidated. People are being arrested. People are being harassed even before election day. So we expected that those places were going to be flashpoints.
Let me. You wanted to add something to that before we go to the next question.
I wanted to add something to that. I agreed to an extent with the Venerable, but I want to disagree with him in terms of INEC. You see, INEC was not very factual with Nigerians, and I think we have to put that on the table.
Okay. In which area?
You see, the fact that INEC postponed the election 5 hours to the election says a lot about what was happening. I concede, INEC had both internal and external problems. There was sabotage both within INEC and outside INEC. Because the burning of the PVCs in Anambra State, the burning of INEC office in Plateau and Akwa Ibom affected INEC's logistic issues. But the buck still stops on their table that they were not very frank with Nigerians. If the chairman had started at the initial stage to say, we want to ensure that this election holds, we are having logistics challenges, we want Nigerians to work with us, we will understand. There are places where National Union of Road Transport Workers refused to move materials because they said they wanted to be paid 100%. Even the election that took place on Saturday, in Lagos State, National Youth Corps members said they were not moving an inch with the materials until they are paid, that they've not been paid what happened in presidential. These are logistic issues, but it's still a responsibility of INEC. They have improved, but there is a problem. Because until now, they have not told us why the election was postponed and why did the materials not move to where it was supposed to be in the presidential election. In terms of logistics, I must give it to them during the governorship election that INEC officials came early. But it was like an anticlimax. The movement of INEC materials, the movement of materials, the movement of personnel should have actually happened in the presidential. If it had happened the way it happened in the governorship, probably we would have had a higher voter turnout in the governorship. But people felt, what really happened? In some places, materials didn't arrive. Elections started by around 2 o'clock. In some places, 11 o'clock. By 2, the officials said they had closed. One thing we also noticed is that some ad hoc officials, either they were trained that they didn't know what they were supposed to do, and some of them clearly didn't know the procedure. They were as confused as anybody who had come to vote. In some places they didn't even know the code that will unlock the card reader. And that stalled the election for several places. So INEC has its own problems, and I think that is why we need to audit the election. But beyond that, I think Nigerian politicians are desperate. Everybody wants to win by all costs. Why do they want to win? Because election in Nigeria is the easiest investment you can make. For the people who are smiling now, they're already millionaires just by winning election. Whether it's a House of Assembly election, even council election in Abuja here, it's too expensive for you to do. So you realize that it's a do or die affair. People are ready to kill. The issue of the military, I think, is even a more crime for the military to tell us that individuals who are involved in election duty are fake soldiers. They should have been arrested even before they got to that place. For fake soldiers to be snatching ballot boxes, to be aiding people to snatch ballot boxes, go to a collation center in Rivers State and draw their guns ready to shoot police officers. Because if you remember what happened in the collection center in Rivers State, the military came and said that literally everybody should leave. Okay, let me say those in military uniform came and said that everybody should leave. The police said they were not going anywhere. They said they will open fire on them, and the police also cocked their own weapon. It was just by the intervention of God that reason was allowed to prevail, and the military withdrew. Don't you think that if those people are fake police people, military people, that the military hierarchy should have sent an enforcement to arrest those people? Because it's a worse crime for you to be responsible for Nigeria's territorial integrity, and you see fake soldiers trying to truncate democracy
in several
places, and you didn't do anything, and you are just telling us we are going to investigate. You see, so these are the problems. So for one, there is a responsibility for the military. There's a responsibility for politicians. INEC also has its own responsibility.
Now, I thank God that you spoke, when you were talking, you talk about sabotage.
Yes, clearly.
And you are heading a very big organization that covers the country.
Yeah.
You should understand the implication of sabotage. When your effort is being sabotaged deliberately by powers that be, two forces now, powers that be, using authority they have, which is security agencies, then the desperate politicians are on their own sabotaging your effort.
Yeah.
You are trying to redeem any act of sabotage that is unleashed against you and your system, what you are trying to, then while you are trying to remedy that, another one is happening. Now, you just commended INEC in their deployment of materials, their handling of logistics in this governorship election. Yeah. But many elections have been declared inconclusive.
Yes,
because the military were terribly involved. They disrupted so many people. I don't want to agree totally with the military coming out to say, what you should have, I wanted to hear by now is let them parade the number of people, the fake military that they arrested with their uniform, and prove to Nigeria that these are not military. But as far as they have not done that, they are just coming out to say this, just laundering of image. And now to tell you that there's some level of official sabotage in this matter. Till now, there's a government in power. Election or no election, there's a government in power. This is an election where many Nigerians have been killed. This is an election now where many elections have been declared inconclusive because of violence. And it's everywhere. Yeah. Government in power have not come out officially to make any statement, to either condemn it or to say, oh, this is our stand, or to call the military to order. Why that thing was going on? See, because you are doing election, Mr. President is not on suspension. While that election was going on, what was happening in Rivers and all those states were going on, the issue of the military, the president can make a live broadcast to call the military to order. Immediately.
It doesn't need to even be a live
even if it's not just a phone call to call these people to order, but that has not happened. Yeah. The president is busy receiving his old schoolmates in Dara, and a smiling. A member, I'm a chaplain to National Assembly. A member of House of Rep was killed in Oyo. Yes, no one government have not made any statement. Is that a rat?
And a lot of people.
So that tells you there's a measure of official sabotage to the effort of INEC. And you know what that one means. Then, coupled with the desperation of politicians.
Now, let's go to the issue of inconclusiveness. Yeah. And I want you to quickly comment in that. What makes an election inconclusive?
So many things.
But before we go, let me take this video clip, which will show us different states as at this morning that has been declared inconclusive. Let's take a look at this.
Along with the provisions of Section 179(2) to 5 of the 1999 Constitution as amended, I am constrained to say that the election to the governor of Plateau State is inconclusive.
If we look at the total number of votes which could have been harvested from the total number of voters registered in the 44 PUs, in the 29 RAs, the margin of lead principle should apply. And therefore, I declare this exercise inconclusive.
Margin of lead between the PDP with 469,512 votes and the APC with 465,453 votes is 4,059 votes. And in line with sections 26 and 53 of the Electoral Act, and because the margin of lead is not in excess of the total number of registered voters, I declare this election inconclusive.
The office is under siege by men in military uniform, army uniform, and uniforms of the Air Force and the police, who have taken over the INEC office, and they are stopping and screening people and clearing results before they enter the office, to the extent that up to now no collation has been done.
Consequently, at a meeting held on the 10th of March 2019, the Commission has decided to suspend all electoral processes in the state until further notice. The Commission has set up a fact-finding committee to assess the situation and report back in 48 hours.
I state that Oluseyi Makinde of PDP, having satisfied the requirement of the law and scored the highest number of votes, is hereby declared the winner and is returned elected.
Audu Alhaji Sule of the All Progressives Congress, having satisfied the requirements of the law and scored the highest number of votes, is hereby declared the winner and is returned elected.
A video clip showing us states that has been declared inconclusive and some that are declared conclusive. But I want to actually know, according to the electoral law, what makes an election inconclusive?
Okay, so what makes an election inconclusive is it's simple. So if the difference or the vote between the leading candidate and the person, the runner-up, so if you look at the two individuals who will likely win, so between two of them, if the difference of the lead is less than the number of cancelled votes,
Okay.
then the election is inconclusive. So take for instance, if let's say because in Adamawa, in Sokoto, which state again? There are different states now. Bauchi.
Yes, we have.
I think Delta also.
Benue.
Yeah.
No, Delta has been declared.
Okay.
Benue.
So if you look at the margins are not much. Some of them are like 5,000. Some of them are less than 10,000. But if you look at the number of the cancelled votes, some of them run into hundreds of thousands, or maybe 50,000 or 60,000. So if those cancelled votes actually go to either of them, what it means is that somebody will definitely win. It's like what happened in Osun State. If you remember what happened in Osun State, some votes, some areas, some of the local governments and the polling units, the votes were cancelled. So the difference between the governor now and Adeleke then was so little that if you compare the number of people the votes that were cancelled will be more than the number that you remember Adeleke of PDP was leading the current governor now. So after the elections, the table turned. So what it means is that the table can swing to either way, as long as the number of cancelled votes are more than the difference between the two of them. So what normally happens is that a rerun is done in those places that votes are cancelled. And once they tabulate those votes, it normally gives them the winner. The issue is that it can go either way, because the number is greater than the number of individuals.
But in some cases, it is being talked about the number of registered voters. Like in the case of Kogi State. It was, the reason given was based on the number of registered voters in that particular area where votes were cancelled.
What do you mean by that?
That's the essence of declaring it inconclusive, is that in so local government we have 50,000 registered voters. Not that all those registered voters has their PVC.
No. In fact, it's actually the Kogi one. It's actually the Kogi one that also raised the issue, because if you remember in the Kogi election, there was a technical issue there, because the number with which the governor won was actually less than the number.
It was above 40,000. That's what I was trying to note. Then in the case of Kogi State, it was not a matter of the number of cancelled votes. The number of cancelled votes were lesser than the difference. But what was used there is that the number of registered voters in the areas that were cancelled are more.
Is it the Kogi now or the Kogi before?
The Kogi that Yaya Bello is running.
No, but Yaya Bello is not during the election. Yaya Bello is not on the. Yaya Bello, it will be later in the year, around November.
Yes, that's what I'm saying. Yeah. That I was just citing Kogi as an example.
Yeah. So Kogi was, there was no rerun in Kogi.
Yeah, no, there was rerun.
Now, I think
there was a rerun in Kogi.
If I may get,
because these are now two issues that people are making cases on. INEC is using two different things to declare some states inconclusive.
Yeah, that's what I'm saying.
An example is what you cited.
Yeah.
If you go back to what happened in Kogi almost 4 years ago, it was a different case. The ball was that the number of the registered voters in areas that were cancelled were more than the difference between the two runner-ups. So that was, and at the end of the day, the number of people that eventually voted were just 6,000. The total votes that were gathered during the run was 6,000.
Yeah, well, the thing is this. From my own assessment of the law, I mean, if you look at Section 26 and Section 53, I think it gives a clearer view. The thing is that also INEC has guidelines. They have produced guidelines. Also, if you look at this election, there are guidelines that INEC is using and all those things, and that is the margin of lead, the principle of margin of lead, which is very clear that if the margin of lead between two candidates is less than the number of cancelled votes, that automatically the election becomes inconclusive. And I guess that is what they are using.
Yes, I think that's what they are using presently.
That is what they are using, that is known to everyone, but I want to say that it's not limited to that.
Okay.
INEC is the final umpire as far as Nigeria election is concerned. And they have the power to cancel election under those circumstances that they believe
is strong enough to warrant that. Now, they don't need the number of lead or whatever now in what they did in Rivers to suspend the election. You can hear now, they didn't say they declared the election inconclusive. No, they said they have suspended the election.
Because the coalition has not even started.
Yeah. Now, INEC have powers to do these things. INEC can declare election inconclusive because of security challenges. Because if, for instance, as that River election was going on, like the case of the police versus the army, which is in the media where they were exchanging where's everyone country gone. If soldiers and police have started shooting themselves and the thing spreads across the state, and they can stop that election, can declare it inconclusive, whether you call it suspension or inconclusive. You are really playing on words. It's the same thing. So INEC has the power to, in the case of Rivers, what they have said now is that they have set up a panel to go to Rivers, to investigate, interrogate all the stakeholders, to find out what actually was the state of affairs on ground before they can come back and sit down in council to take a decision. Once that investigation panel comes back to make their report, they can sit down and take and they can decide to cancel the election outright. They can decide to say, oh, let's continue from where it stops. So INEC have power and have guidelines. So I don't want us to just restrict them to one particular.
Before we go, let's just take this.
But the concern about the declaration of inconclusiveness in some states is the fact now that people are raising the fact that most of the states where elections were declared are all states where PDP is leading. That is the concern of people.
Well, not all of them. I think
most. I use the word most. I chose my word most. They say most of the states because I've listened to so many people on national television this morning that this is the concern. I know where they are going to, but I know what INEC have done.
But I guess the reality is that at the end of the day, if election is declared and one party is not happy, they have the right to go to court.
Yes, that's why I disagree with those bunch of individuals who went on air to be telling the PDP that is in the presidential election, Atiku should not go to court, making it look as if going to court is an offense. It's a crime. It's not a crime. I mean, I didn't know why they have to go on air to be doing that. It shows to me that something have gone on that degree.
It strengthens democracy. Yes. Because at the end of the day, you also realize that at the early stage of this democracy, most of the states that eventually became APC states were won in the courts. Take for Rivers State, the key of Rivers State, Ekiti State.
Even my state, Edo State.
Edo State. It was the judges that said that these are the validly elected and the validly individuals who won the election. So I don't think we should. Jonathan was magnanimous enough for obvious reasons. But if somebody feels that the election was not free and fair, the best thing is to go to court.
Like in Lagos now, the Agbaje have done that to congratulate Sanwo-Olu. But that does not mean that in other states, if there's problem, you should know. In our report, there's already a column there where we say any person who feels dissatisfied with anything in this election has the right to follow the constitutional procedure.
Let's take this, brother, and we shall be back to continue discussing about this as we round up this episode.
Of Abuja of the Church of Nigeria Anglican Communion invite you to the 2019 Way of the Cross program. Theme: A New Beginning. Date: Monday 11th March to Sunday 17th March 2019. A week of transformation, exposition and ministration at the Cathedral Church of the Advent, Life Camp Gwarimpa, Abuja. Time: 5 p.m. daily. Ministering: the Most Reverend Judge Lashebiko, the Right Reverend Timothy Yaya, the Right Reverend David Onoha, the Right Reverend Paul Udogu, the Right Reverend Dr. Titus Olayinka, the Right Reverend Henry Okeke, Mike Adegbile. There will be counseling and prayers by gifted servants of God on daily basis. Host, the Most Reverend Dr. Nicholas D. Oku, Archbishop Metropolitan and Primate of all Nigeria, Anglican Communion. Come, experience victory through the cross.
Mercy on the river.
You are welcome back. Yes, let's just talk about vote. Somebody says vote trading.
It's vote trading.
You say it's
it's vote trading.
Not vote buying.
No.
No, it's both buying and selling.
And selling.
Yeah, you need a buyer to have a seller. So it's
so
the whole thing is
what was the experience during the two elections? Let's pick the presidential and the state assembly and the states.
Yeah, from our assessment from people in the field, there was virtually vote trading in both the presidential and governorship election, but it was more open. It was a free for all in the governorship, and it seems the price also reduced in the governorship. We actually got information in some places that the argument was that some of the political party agents had collected a lot of money and was offering them peanuts. So they said they needed to collect the money before they actually joined the line. And also they were, in some places we heard that it was now trade by barter. Not trade by barter per se, but you will name your price. Okay. And if they don't match it, then you say you are not voting. And that the thing actually reduced to an extent like 2,000. And some of the voters were saying, but no, I mean, they paid us more during the presidential. Why will you pay us less? And this one should even be more. So it's like there was also difference in bargaining between the presidential and the governorship, which which actually shows the situation we have found ourselves in. That despite all the talk about no vote buying, no vote selling, at the end of the day, when the chips were down.
But do you think those that are actually being paid are voting for that party? Was there any confirmation of, okay, this person voted for this party before being paid?
I don't know. What we were told, for example, in places like Lagos and Ekiti State, was that there was already a pre-arrangement. How much was given, I don't know, but that people came.
Okay,
their
we
names
have
were
a
written.
caller from Edo State, Pastor Olusegun. Hello.
Good morning, sir. I want to contribute to the discussion this morning.
Three
things I want to really talk about is the number one, the vote buying and the court issue are inconclusive. Then this issue of election generally in Nigeria, to Nigerians, they are already getting fed up about the electoral system. Because during elections, people will come out to come and cast their vote. But at the end of the day, they will end up in going to court. Can we not speak the truth once and for all? This truth of a thing is that when we speak the truth, we will die. If we don't speak the truth, we will die. But it is better for us to speak the truth so that we will know we are for the truth. If someone will go and cast this for a vote, and just at the end of the day, they will not tell the people to say, okay, go to court if you are not satisfied. Why going to court when we have ACNN? ACNN are there to speak the truth and to declare the winner of the elections. So, and why are we even saying that the election is inconclusive? Something that we have people on ground that have planned for this thing for 4 years. Election that is planned for 4 years. Then why are we not coming again to say inconclusive or go to court? So the reason, sir, what I really want to say to Nigerian politics is that if we are not ready to be doing elections in Nigeria, if it's election we want to be doing, then let us just let people know so that people will not be wasting their life, wasting their money, wasting their time. Look at many people that traveled and died for this recent election. And at the end of the day, they died. And the outcome of the election, there are riots here, court case here. Then look at what President Jonathan did in 2015. He accepted defeat and he congratulated the president because he wants democracy to come and stay in Nigeria. But today now, nobody is ready to build on that foundation of our former president. Everybody want to have this way by all means to make sure that they are in power. So this thing is not good. If there is a way that we the Christians can really come up and speak over this matter, I think this is the right time. Look at what is happening in Rivers State now. Look at what is happening. Please, sir, let us use our good office to come out and really fight for this democracy that our forefathers has really fought for. The people like Tafawa Balewa and Modus, Awolowo and all the rest. They fight for Nigeria. But what is happening today is really discouraging. Please let us do our best to make sure that we put this right.
Thank you, Pastor Olusegun from Edo State. Thank you.
Can we say this in response to Pastor Olusegun's comment? Though he spoke generally, picking on different issues. But talking about why do you prepare for an election for 4 years, only to come and be declaring them inconclusive, this or that. To me, we need to be realistic. Now, why the children of God are planning, the children of the devil are also planning. If I plan, for instance, because we need to be fair, because it's why I need to respond to it, we are talking about the issue of the truth. Truth is coming from the angle of your perception and what you know, the information at your disposal. Thank God it's no INEC man here. He's an observer. He's heading Clean Foundation. I'm heading CONAC. He can tell you, INEC doesn't pay any observer. I don't know, do they pay you people Clean Foundation? They don't pay CONAC. So I'm at liberty to say things the way they are. If I plan for 4 years, and the enemies are planning at the back, and on the day of executing the plan have made, which is plain and perfect, then the enemy strikes and disrupt the whole process using their power, what their connection, or whatsoever. And I see that from what is going on, this thing cannot end well. I have the right to suspend the process or declare it inconclusive to frustrate the enemy.
In fact,
to that extent, I can commend INEC on their stance on some issues so far. All I just want to say is that INEC should never wave here or there. They should continue to maintain the middle course so that things can go well. Then if you look at even the elections generally, you have seen some states where powers have changed hands. Sure. You have seen a place like Ibadan now, where the where the government in power is lost out, and I think it's PDP that is winning. Yes. Are you going to
Imo states too?
If you are a PDP man, are you going to say INEC was not fair there? You take other places, take individuals. Look at some key individuals, I don't want to mention names, who have lost election in the area where you think it was their stronghold. Yes. There are some APC that have APC members that have experienced that. There are some PDP members that have experienced such in their own place. So you can use that to measure the fairness of the umpire. I think most of the blame of what we see today happening in the country is the body language and the disposition of government in power. I say this without any apology. And secondly, the desperation of Nigerians.
Politicians.
Sorry, I keep saying Nigeria. Well, many Nigerians are very desperate, but in this case, we are talking about politicians, Nigeria politicians. Now, if Nigeria politicians are ready to let things be
the way it ought to be.
Look at the other time, INEC came up with the idea that people should not carry phone to the police. It raised uproar everywhere. What was INEC trying to do? INEC was trying to stop this vote buying and selling, which you talk about last. Just to, they have discovered that that is the new method. You go in, thumbprint, snap it, and you go and use it to, as evidence, receipt to collect your money. And INEC saying no, and people were still, many Nigerians were still criticizing INEC for that. But INEC did say, don't even take your phone to your voting polling booth. What they say, when you have done every other thing, accreditation, you are now going to thumbprint, drop your phone, either with one of the POs or with your friend. Don't take the phone to the... These are steps being taken to checkmate what desperate politicians are doing. We must, while we condemn INEC is, sometimes we must also commend the good steps they are taking and encourage them to do more and support them to be able to maintain their stand against the desperation of some politicians and the influence of any government in power.
Let me get
what I wanted to add is, if you remember in Imo State, a returning officer announced on television that he was announcing this result under duress.
Under duress.
Yes. And INEC, with what we are hearing now, said they are not going to give
what do you want
certificate to of return.
Okay, we have another. I will continue with you. We have another caller from Taraba. Hello, good afternoon.
Hello.
Yes, you are on.
Okay, sir. What I'm saying is that we are in Taraba now.
Okay.
The PDP have won in Taraba.
Okay.
But now they have declared 24 hours curfew. We cannot go out. The people that did not want APC, they are still fighting. They still come out to fight. What are we doing in Nigeria? Is it that this is how the country is going to go forward, or we don't have leaders that can say something about what is happening?
Leadership.
Thank you, Mrs. Akabo.
You see, that has taken us back to the question of leadership. Now, PDP have won in Taraba according to her. Yes. Who declared curfew? The governor. Because the governor sees that there is fight in the street, so they have to control it. The governor have declared curfew to arrest the situation. The political party, the members of the people fighting on the street now belongs to a political party.
Yes.
Nothing is being said. Even if they don't belong to APC. APC is the government in power. They have the right to say, stop this immediately. So we should not always, okay, INEC that declared the PDP winner in Taraba, is it the one who will blame for the curfew now?
Now,
and the fight on the street?
Let me hear your conclusion as we round up.
Yeah.
And possibly in your conclusion, you can pick the issue of technology as we go ahead.
Oh, that's very important.
Yeah, mine is that I want to commend Nigerians who actually went out to vote. Despite the problems that I remember, I heard about somebody in Apo that went to 6 different polling units trying to find where he was supposed to vote, and he finally found it and voted. And also, people went to their wards not knowing that their wards are not the places they were supposed to vote. I had to carry some people actually from Wuse Zone 3 to Wuse 2, because also there was a miscommunication in terms of where to vote and all those things. So I really want to commend Nigerians who, despite problems, actually came out to vote. That is the resilience Nigerians showed means that democracy is maturing. But
so going forward, I think, like I said before, there is need to audit this election. INEC also needs to look closely at their logistics, and I think we need to look. There's need for a conversation on whether INEC should be unbundled. The activities they are carrying out are so many, and if anything goes wrong, we blame them. Sometimes it's not their responsibility. Sometimes it's third parties that they have actually contracted and things don't work out. So we need to look at that. The other issue is election security management. Do we need the army in policing our elections? The truth is that Section 29, subsection 3 clearly says what the military should do. Support the movement of sensitive materials, support the protection of electoral officers. But that's not what they are doing now. If you look at what happened in Rivers State, you see that they've gone beyond the call of duty. We really need to ask ourselves this question again. What should be the role of the military? Then what should be the role of the police, which has the primary responsibility? The law actually says that they should take, the INEC should guide the deployment of security and actually say what should happen. But the reverse is the case. Nobody takes order from INEC. And at the end of the day, if everything goes wrong, we'll blame INEC. So security agencies should also take responsibility and work with INEC. There should be interagency collaboration, not interagency rivalry. And then I think the government needs to ensure that this democracy works. Because every evidence has shown that between 2015 and 2019, we didn't really move forward in terms of election generally. Fairness, inclusivity, transparency, and accountability. So there is need for us to actually look at that again. Finally, those who have been arrested for election infractions should be punished. Because if they are not punished, impunity will continue. Those who snatched buses this year, those who changed results and did all those things and brought in thugs and all those things, if we don't punish them, people will now broaden their opportunity to deal with be bad, and cause more problems in the coming elections that we may have in the coming years and all those things. I wish Nigeria the best. This is the only country we have. And I think the best thing actually that the PDP has done is to go to court. They should go to court and also rein in their members. And like what is happening in Taraba, I think the political parties that have lost should also let their members know that if they're not comfortable with the result, they should also go to court. Instead of violence. Let me take variable in 60 seconds. I just want you to touch on voters taking note that election is not a do or die affair.
Well,
then you also take on the issue of smart card and technology, and your advice to voters who have possibly felt that their votes didn't count because they are candidates.
I just pray I'm able to cover all that within a 60 seconds.
We have 60 seconds.
As I was rounding up, I was quickly jotting some points down that I want to run through. That it started with the issue of the resilience of Nigerians. As why we commend the resilience of Nigerians on the presidential election, we have to also decry the way many Nigerians gave up
easily
in the state election. And the implication of the apathy that happened in the state election is that you say maybe your perception is that, oh, my vote didn't count. oh, my victory has been robbed and all that, then you say, take it to the scenario of a battle. It's like you say, oh, the enemy has defeated me, and he did it by force, through manipulation. And so the battle is still going on. You say, I don't want to fight again. Let the enemy just take over and continue. That is the implication. So we should take our resilience further than making effort to locate polling booth. We should be, I expected that if we believe that the election was not, the election didn't count, or the INEC didn't do well, Nigeria should be on the street protesting. That is what happens in other nations of the world. That is how to demonstrate resilience. Let the institutions that be know that we can no longer take this. Then the issue of unbundling INEC is very, very important, because you saddle them with too many things. And when you become jack of all trade, you almost become master of none. So we have to take note. And Nigeria is so vast that it's not an easy place to cover at the same time. Then, talking about the desperation of Nigeria politicians. You know, you were not with us the last time we came to the studio. I talked so much about Nigeria factor. INEC waiting till the 11th hour to distribute material, a day to election or 2 days to election to distribute material, is because of the desperation of Nigerians. If it was not that Nigeria factor, that people will steal this thing, that people will take this material and go and mutilate them or use them for untoward reasons, INEC can start distributing on materials 2 weeks, 1 week before election. But in our situation, that cannot work. So even the logistic challenge that INEC is having is partly because of the Nigeria factor, because of our desperation. We don't want to do the right thing, and we do the wrong thing and go away with it. These things need to be addressed. Our politicians are too desperate. There is too much greed, and it is evil for you to kill your neighbor because you want to occupy an office. How long are you going to stay in that? 4 years? 8 years maximum? Then you kill another person and you think you will have peace. You have killed your peace without knowing it. Now, lastly, in all, CONAC have assessed all these things wholesale and discovered that the way to go is technology. I said it in the last episode. I want to emphasize it again. If we can take our ATM, ATM card, walk into any bank premises without any person there, slot it in, you press how much you need, and the money comes out, and the transaction is okay, that of voting is far, 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 far more simpler. So we can deploy technology and avoid all this logistic wahala of moving materials up and down, printing ballot paper that is now as long as any other thing. I think we didn't touch on something. There's need to prove political parties down. Because the number of political parties also impacted on the amount spent by INEC. It impacted on the amount of time now going into collation. People will be waiting on ending because there are too many political parties that ought not to be there. I think there is need for improvement, and technology will simply solve most of these problems for us. If technology is deployed, do you need a policeman by ATM machine to withdraw money? No. So we won't need soldiers, we won't need police.
Thank you very much. It's a wrap here today. This is where we're going to drop the curtain today, and I want to appreciate Dr. Benson for coming. Thank you, sir, for coming. And I also want to appreciate the Venerable. We'll meet in the evening again at the Way of the Cross.
Nigeria politicians are stressing me.
So that's where we drop the curtain for today, and we hope you join us again next week. This is a discussion that will still continue. We cannot just end the whole thing. And on ACNN, we'll still be giving you updates about what is going on across states that have been declared inconclusive or either suspended. Till we meet again next week, God bless you.
The views and opinions expressed on this program are those of the guests and viewers and do not necessarily reflect the views and opinions of the Anglican Cable Network Nigeria, ACNN.